This is the Russian Dynamite, Masha Slamovich.
Becca here.
This is not America's Sweetheart, Davian.
It's Billy Starks. And
the super fly guy, Trayvon Jordan.
This is the fly side flyer, Jalen Brandon.
Hardcore Princess, Jules Malone.
Hi there, this is the Bubblegum Princess, Alexia Nicole.
This is the Brazilian Wonder Woman, Christy Jane.
This is the baddest black belt, Chennai Kai.
This is Kid Bandit.
The smash hit, Joel Bateman.
This is Robin Renegade.
Cody Hawk.
Brutal Bob Evans. And you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment, one of my favorite podcasts in the whole wide world.
What's up, guys? It's the future of sports entertainment, the extraordinary Chico Adams, and you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment.
In 3, 2, 1.
What's up, guys? It's the future of sports entertainment, the extraordinary Chico Adams, and you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment.
Hello, and welcome to the show at Wrestling with Entertainment, the only audio experience on the web today, the trusted choice for interviewing all your favorite wrestlers every Tuesday and Wednesday on YouTube and Castbox, sponsored by Rogue Energy and Player One Coffee. I'm, of course, your host, James J., and it's a great day for wrestling, because we are wrestling with the extraordinary Chico Adams.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Can you tell us where we can find you coming up event-wise?
Yeah, so by the time this comes out, it would have already happened, but I actually have a match tomorrow, which would be, was it Saturday, January 18th in Lakeland, Florida for Thunder Championship Wrestling. So from what I understand, I have a surprise opponent. That's all I know. So by the time this comes out, that match would have already taken place. And I can't predict the future, but something tells me I'm going to go out there and steal the show, just like I always do. But besides that, I'm actually flying to San Antonio, Texas, in a few short days to help out and do some extra work and some ring crew for a couple companies that I can't necessarily say, but just
I think we know which ones.
But yeah, keep your eyes open and your ears open. And I'm like the Where's Waldo of professional wrestling. You never know where you're going to see me, but I'm going to pop up eventually if you look hard enough.
Oh, absolutely. And where can we find you on social media and your merchandise?
So I do have a pro wrestling tee store. All you got to do is just go on that lovely website and search Chico Adams. I have 4 t-shirts for sale currently. There will be more in the future. If you catch me at an indie show, I do have 8x10s for sale. I have some hater blocker sunglasses. I have some handy-dandy trading cards, all kinds of goodies. And then as for my social media, I'm on Twitter and Instagram. My handle is at the Chico Adams. That's TheChicoAdams. I'm also on Facebook. I don't have a like page, but I do have a Facebook profile. I'm creeping up on the 5,000 mark, so please don't be offended if I don't add you. But I try to add as many people as I can, but I try to keep it more so, of course, for close family and friends. But every now and then, I'll add a fan. So that's my social media. I also have a YouTube channel, which I'll be honest, I haven't updated in a little while, but if you search hard enough, you'll come across it. I assure you that.
And you don't have to go looking for it. All of the links to all his social media and merchandise will be in the description of the video below, both on YouTube and Castbox.
Thank you. And one last thing. Sorry to cut you off. But for any booking inquiries, so you can reach me at my booking email, which is bookchicoadams@gmail.com.
Perfect. And you're definitely going to have to update that pro wrestling tees as well. As of right now, there's only anti-Chico Adams shorts on that webpage.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple on there, So what happened was the fans were chanting that derogatory term that I really don't like. I'm going to say it. Chico sucks. So I thought what I would do is I would put it on a T-shirt to let the fans know what not to chant. And apparently it backfired on me because that's actually the most popular shirt that I've sold so far, because apparently fans like to chant it. So I came out with an anti-Chico Sucks T-shirt. So I sold quite a few of those as well. But yeah, I'm just trying to put the word out there not to chant it, because I really don't like that phrase. And for some reason, people are still chanting it. So it's a work in progress. It's going to take some time before that phrase gets fizzled out once and for all, but we're getting there.
Right. Have to educate the crowd.
Exactly. Of what not to say.
Now, let's get into it.
Sure.
Let's kind of go back into the Wayback Machine and talk about that time you wrestled Steve Corrino. What was that experience like?
That was absolutely amazing, but I always get nervous before all my matches, no matter what, but it's more of like an excitement. It's kind of like that feeling you get, before you go on like a roller coaster, where that nervous but also exciting feeling. But of course, once it's over, you're like, man, that was so much fun. I want to do it all over again. But the thing with that match was I was very new to the business. I was only in the business at that point for not even a year and a half. So I hadn't had a lot of matches, but that was by far the biggest match that I had at that time. And of course, I also didn't know what to expect, because I was a big fan of his work, and I know that he's, a true pro inside the ring and out. But for myself, I had never, it's like being thrown into the deep end. You're either going to sink or you're going to swim. And even though I worked really hard, and even though I've always believed in myself, I had never had a match of that caliber up to that point. So I knew going in, it was going to be a really big learning experience for me. And I knew that no matter what happens, I was going to come out of it better than when I came in. And that's exactly what happened. I learned a lot working with Steve. It was an honor. It was a privilege. It was a pleasure. And I'm very grateful to have had that opportunity.
Have you been able to wrestle Kobe yet?
So, unfortunately, no, not yet. I would love to have a match with Kobe. That would be a really cool moment for me to have that experience, of working with his dad, when I first broke in, and then to have a match with Kobe now would be incredible. I have worked for NWA a couple of times, and I know Kobe works for them as well. So it could end up happening at some point. We traveled together one time, and we've been on some shows together, but we've never shared the ring yet. But keyword there is yet. We'll put it out in the universe. We'll manifest it and make it happen.
Right. And you mentioned wrestling Steve. Your first name in pro wrestling that you wrestled. Do you think that having that match with him at that time kind of prepared you for what is to come?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about wrestling is like you have to step out of your comfort zone. I always use the example. It's like, back to the whole sink or swim situation. Like if you stay in the shallow end of the pool, but you want to learn how to be a great swimmer, you have to go to the deep end, because you might be comfortable in the shallow end. You might feel safe, but you're not going to get better unless you really push yourself, and you have to be in the ring with people that are that much better than you if you want to be better yourself. So I definitely needed to have that experience, and it went very well. Of course, I was very green at the time. And I'd still be green compared to someone as accomplished and as experienced as Steve. But at the time, I was very new, but I needed to be pushed, and I was able to know afterwards, what I needed to work on and what I can do differently next time. And we were actually supposed to have a rematch a couple months later. Unfortunately, that particular show got postponed, and so unfortunately, the rematch never happened. But there's an old saying in wrestling: "Never say never." And I know I've seen Steve quite a few times backstage at WWE when I've done like extra work, and he's always great to learn from. I've done one of his seminars as well years ago, so I've learned quite a bit from him. And you never know what the future holds, but I can definitely say, without a doubt, that I was a better performer and a better wrestler for sure after working with Steve.
Being in his seminar, does he does he teach you how to scream super kick?
You know what? This was 2013. It was actually just a mere few months after our match. So it's been almost 12 years. Wow, I'm losing track of time here. Almost 12 years since that seminar took place. I don't recall him teaching that, but he did go over quite a few things, and I kept the notebook down and I jotted it down. But he dropped a lot of nuggets in there, and he dropped a lot of little key things here and there, and a lot of information that I still apply to this day that I'm not going to share on here because,
Right.
but things that, have definitely helped me.
Well, you said, sink or swim. Maybe that analogy goes well with this next question. Maybe another one. I'm not entirely sure. Can you tell us about that time you wrestled the Boogieman?
Yes. So that match. So when I wrestled Steve Corrino, he was the heel, and I was the super underdog babyface. What happened was with Steve was I won a battle royal where the winner got to wrestle Steve. So I had just finished a battle royal. He got in the ring. We cut a he cut a promo on me, and we went right into the match. Whereas with the Boogieman, this was 2016.
Yep.
So that was interesting because I was the heel, but I also had a lot more experience by this point. So I felt a lot more confident and a lot more comfortable being in the ring. The funny thing with that was it was a Halloween-themed show. It was in South Florida. We were main event, meaning we were last. The show was outside, but it was pouring rain like the whole night. So by the time our match took place, I mean, that ring was like, a skating rink. I mean, it was just soaking wet. So the good thing was with the Boogieman is he's, even though he can definitely wrestle, of course, his work is a lot of character based and very, moment based. So we had to work around, the limitations of the ring being wet. Obviously we didn't do too many running spots or any, tackle drop down, leapfrog spots,
Right.
But it was a great experience because I got to work with someone, again, on that level, someone who had wrestled for WWE, but also someone who was a character, which, is completely different sometimes from wrestling someone who, can do, crazy flips and dives and things like that. Like it's a different animal, but it was a great experience as well. Because I was a fan of the Boogieman as when I was younger, and I still am to this day. And I grew up loving horror movies, Candyman and Nightmare on Elm Street, and a lot of these supernatural characters that could talk but could also scare you at the same time. So the horror fan in me was also really excited to have had that match. But yeah, same thing. It was a great experience, and I definitely came out better. And he gave me some really good advice and good words of encouragement afterwards that I still hold to this day. He told me, he said, I guarantee you're going to end up wrestling on TV. He said, and the only way that wouldn't happen is if you choose not to. And this was in 2016 before I ever did anything with any major company. And I remember him saying that to me, and I was like, wow, like it really meant a lot. And then of course, sure enough, a little over a year later, I started doing work with WWE, and then it just took on from there. So his words definitely, came true, and I'll keep those words alive and make it even better.
Hell yeah. And I mean, the obvious question being, the worms. Suit worms or working worms?
Those were definitely real worms. I mean, I've had people say, oh, they were fake. I'm like, no, those were legit worms. And also, I'm sure you've seen the clips online. What happened was, yeah, he spit the worms on me, but then also, Snake Master Jeff came out not long after that with his snake. So not only did I have live worms on me, but I had a giant snake on me as well. So it was definitely an experience of a lifetime,
Especially if you were afraid of snakes.
Yes, I mean, thankfully I don't have any phobias like that. What's funny is, like, I'm not afraid of them. I don't personally like insects. Like, I don't like, for example, if I see a big cockroach in our house, I get really, I don't like them. I get kind of grossed out by them, but I'll get rid of it if I have to. So I don't have a phobia necessarily, but I would say for me, it would be like anything, like any big cockroaches or any big bugs or anything like that. So I don't have a phobia of snakes or of worms, but I didn't have a choice at that point either.
Right. Well, you do have the distinct honor of having a win over Jacob Fatu at MLW.
Yeah, although I definitely didn't leave the ring as a winner, but
Hey, in the words of Dusty Rhodes, never let facts get in the way of a good story.
that is true. You're not wrong there.
But can you tell us about working MLW, Jacob Fatu, Samuel as well? I believe that was in Chicago as well, no?
Yes, that is correct. So actually, that was the second time I had worked him. So what a lot of people don't know was they were supposed to debut. Well, they did debut in the ECW arena in Philadelphia the month before that. So it was also a tag team match. My partner at the time was Kwame Naz, who is a wrestler here in Florida. So we went out, we did the match, and for whatever reason, the match, they couldn't air it. I've heard mixed things. I think from what I heard, it had something to do with like the network didn't. I don't know if there was some kind of issue that I don't know the full details, so I'm not going to say that they couldn't air the match. So they decided to extend their official debut to the Chicago show, which took place a month later. It was March 2019 at the Cicero Stadium in technically it's Cicero, Illinois. We'll call it Chicago because it's pretty much is Chicago.
Right.
But yeah, the match took place. It was myself and my partner this time was Vertigo Rivera, which he's someone that I've had a lot of matches with. He used to be one of the head trainers at the Wild Samoan Training Center, which of course, unfortunately, is no longer around. But he's someone that I've known very well. We've teamed before, we've wrestled before. We've had a lot of memories together. So it was really cool to share that experience with him. And yeah, so actually we won by DQ because Joseph pulled out a foreign object that he wasn't supposed to use, and the referee, had to do his job, and he DQ'd them. So we did win by DQ, but again, we didn't look like the winners after that. Jacob Fatu gave me 2 of his moonsaults off the top rope, and then they came out, the EMTs put me on the stretcher, and as they were lifting me up, Jacob Fatu gave me a moonsault with me in midair on a stretcher. And so as I'm laying there face down, I can feel the heat from the crowd, and I can feel a bunch of debris getting thrown into the ring. And at this point, I had no idea what was going on. I see, on the corner of my eye, I see soda cans, I see garbage, and all I can think of is like, what's going on right now? Little did I know, but I found out the hard way that there was a riot going on with the fans. I mean, Jacob and Joseph were getting so much heat, the fans literally started rioting. And I had never been a part of anything like that ever. So, and of course, we all know Chicago is one of the, if not the rowdiest wrestling crowds in the country. So yeah. I shouldn't have been surprised. But, it was an incredible experience. I've been very fortunate to have had 3 matches with MLW. And that was by far, the most memorable of the 3. And, what's really cool is I still see Jacob to this day. Of course, I do a lot of, extra work. Very fortunate to say that. I do a lot of extra work with WWE. And, of course, we all know he's on SmackDown. And I'm very happy for him. He's a hard worker. He deserves it. And it's great to finally see him get his spot.
And you, and I believe you mentioned this, you are low-key kind of part of the family. You were trained by Alpha, no?
I'm definitely not part of the family. To me, that's an honor and a distinction that, I'm not related.
Yes,
but
I mean, like,
Pops,
part of
yeah.
Alpha's, kids, his trainees.
Yeah, no, definitely. So yeah, Pops, anyone who knows Pops knew that he always referred to his students as his kids. He would always call me son, as he did a lot of people. But yes, I was trained by a lot of people, but I was one of my trainers was, of course, Pops, a.k.a. Alpha the Wild Samoan. And I was very honored to be welcomed into that. And, I learned a lot from him, not just about wrestling, but about life. And, we were very close. And he, I was his WXW champion for about 2.5 years, which I'm very proud of. I was inducted into the WXW Hall of Fame in May 2022. I was very I say the word honored a lot. It's like my go-to word, but it's because that's honestly how I feel.
Right.
I'm truly blessed to have been, Pops. That was Pops' idea. That was his decision to put me in the Hall of Fame. And I think he did that as a testament to a lot of the hard work and the loyalty and the dedication that I gave to WXW. But like I said in my Hall of Fame speech, I said, I would never give up on Pop because I knew Pops would never give up on me. And I can never repay him for all that he did for me, all that he taught me, all the opportunities, all the doors that were open because of that. And so the least I can do is give my all to him. So, I'm very proud to have been a part of WXW and to learn from Pops. And, no matter what happens, I think Pops will always go down as being the man who has, without a doubt, had the biggest impact on my career and also one of the men who have had a big impact on my life.
And now, you mentioned it. You worked 2300 Arena. Obviously the old ECW arena. Anybody knows I'm a big arena guy. What was that experience like, being in that environment?
It was cool because, I was always, pro WWE. I wasn't, when I first started watching it, I wasn't necessarily that fan that would, watch multiple companies or, indies. I was, WWE, that was it, for a little while. But one company that I always liked as well, that I would sometimes dabble in here and there, was ECW. It was cool because when guys like Rob Van Dam and Taz and the Dudley Boys came into WWE, I wanted to kind of see where their origin came from. I wanted to go back and relive some of those moments and those memories and those matches. So that's kind of how I went back and watched a lot of their stuff. And as the years went on, I became more and more of a fan of ECW. So that was really special for me to have that experience. Unfortunately, the match, like I said, the match never aired, so I never have seen it. But I would love to see that match one day if it's out there somewhere. And no one can take away the fact that I wrestled in the ECW arena. That's something I can always live with. But what was really cool, too, was they also did the stretcher spot where they're lifting me in the air and Jacob does the moonsault while I'm on the stretcher. And so when they brought me to the back, one of the first people to meet me was Tommy Dreamer, just to check on me and make sure I was okay. So that was a really cool moment, too, because we all know, Tommy Dreamer, without a doubt, is on the Mount Rushmore of ECW legends. And so it was a really special moment for me. And, yeah, I'm just very blessed to have had that experience.
Well, obviously, a very historic building to a low-key, big building when it comes to WWE. You wrestled in the Barclays Center against Omos.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Wow. That was almost like a fever dream, because I'll tell the story. So what happened was I was booked on a 3-day loop. I did SmackDown on a Friday in Worcester. I did Extreme Rules the next night in Philadelphia, speaking of Philly. I was off Sunday, and then Monday was the Barclays Center. So Friday, I did a security spot with Drew McIntyre where he gave me the belly-to-belly overhead on the outside. So, we all know, when you see, security guards, normally, if you do a loop where you're on, multiple days, if you just got taken out as a security guard, they're probably not going to use you again for, at least a few weeks. So when I was driving to the arena that Monday, on the way there, in the back of my mind, I was like, there's no way I'm going to be getting used tonight because I just got killed on SmackDown by Drew. So I thought, which is fine. I'm a professional. Whatever you need me to do, I'll do it. If you have nothing for me, that's fine as well. But of course, in the back of my mind, I also want to do as much as I can and make the most out of every opportunity. So I drove there with the idea being that I'm probably not going to get used, which again, no problem. I'm a professional. So I get there, and not long after I get there, one of the producers, he said, hey, we need you tonight for a match. And he mentioned that it would be me wrestling Omos, and he basically said, hey, you can pick your partner. And my partner was Joey Ace, who I met for the first time just 2 days prior to that in Philly. And Joey was one of those people that, even though I had just met him 2 days prior, I felt like I knew him my whole life. He was only a couple months older than me, and we both, grew up watching it in the same era. So, we clicked instantly, and, I picked Joey. So it was really cool to have that experience with him. But about maybe a half hour before we went out there, we found out that we were going to do a backstage segment with DX, which was incredible because Joey and I both grew up as huge DX fans. I mean, DX was by far my favorite faction of all time. I mean, I love the NWO as well. That comes at a close second, but DX was always my number one favorite. And so, what I liked about it too was that whole segment was on the fly. It wasn't like we rehearsed it. It wasn't like it was, we went over it. It was like a one and done. It was live. And so that's why when Road Dogg asked what our names were, we didn't know what names we'd be given. So when he asked my partner said, my name is Joey Ace. And then when he asked me, I said Chico, because quite frankly, I didn't know. They told us we might use your wrestling name, you might use your real name, you might use a completely made up name. So we just answered it with what our wrestling names were, which was really cool. So what was also really nice was as soon as we walked off screen, we had to literally run to the ring because it was all one shot. Like, for example, we did the segment with DX. We walked off screen. I think The Miz came into the shot. They had a little back and forth. And the next thing you know, it cuts to the ring, and we're already in the ring. So that wasn't taped. I mean, we had to run as soon as we were done to the ring and get in the ring as fast as we could. So we're running, backstage, and we're running, where the fans are, and there's, cables everywhere and production crates. And it was the biggest adrenaline rush of my life because I was just on TV with DX, and I know I'm seconds away from having this big match on Raw, which is biggest match of my career, biggest match of my life. As soon as our feet get in the ring, we hear Omos's music hit, and it's like, all right, it's go time. These next, couple of minutes this could easily make or break my career. This can go so well that it could lead to bigger and better things. Or, who knows, I might mess up and I might never get brought back ever again, in which, I live for that pressure. I always perform better under pressure anyway. But, the red light was on, and we went out there and we performed, and it ended up being an incredible experience that I think about it every day. And it was such an adrenaline rush, and it was such just an amazing experience that I wanted to live over and over again. And I'm going to do everything in my power to have more moments like that.
Sounds like a lot of things happened in a very short amount of time.
Yes, but a lot of that has to, not to put myself over, but a lot of that has to do with my hustle. I'm not the kind of person to, sit back and wait for opportunities. I mean, sometimes, you do have to be patient, but wrestling is such a competitive business, and there's thousands and thousands of people that are out there fighting for that spot, but you always got to just be on the up and up, and you got to be always pushing yourself and bettering yourself and just making those connections and staying on people. And, but also timing is huge too, right place, right time, and just always being ready. That's the one thing that, you always have control over, is being prepared, because you never know when you get that opportunity. And sometimes you only get one opportunity and you have to knock it out of the park. And if you don't, there's thousands of other people that would easily come in and try to do that.
Now, we've talked about all these moments that you've had, and we're going to be talking about a couple more in a couple minutes. But sure. Are these moments you take in the moment, or are these things that kind of set in afterwards? Like, wow, I did this.
Honestly, it's a little bit of both. I think for me, like, when it happens, I'm so focused on, in my mind, making sure everything, goes correctly and knocking it out of the park. And it's kind of like, I think, a dream state too, because you're living it. And there's so many emotions going on. There's the crowd, there's the nerves, there's the excitement, there's, you're trying to remember things and try to, but at the same time, it's definitely when it's afterwards, it's for me, that's when you really start to go back. Cause I'm an overthinker anyway. I always go back and relive moments and go, okay, maybe I could have done this better, or maybe I could have done that differently. But yeah, so it's a little bit of both, to answer your question. But a lot of these experiences I take them as learning experiences, and I try to take something from each one and, just put it in my back pocket. And that way, if and when an opportunity comes up, I have that reference.
Now, you've done a lot of, crazy things for WWE. As you said, the Wheels Waldo of professional wrestling. maybe the oddest thing that I found that you've done for WWE is that you were one of Bad Bunny's Easter rabbits?
Yeah, so it was actually the Miz and Morrison's entrance. They were wrestling a tag team match. WrestleMania in Tampa, 2021, they were wrestling Damian Priest and Bad Bunny. So
Right.
they brought out a bunch, Miz and Morrison brought out a bunch of people dressed as bunnies hopping out to the ring, and I was one of them. There's so many of us that it would be very hard for me to pinpoint exactly which one I was, but that was one of, I've had 3 WrestleMania moments, and that was one of them. I was also Goldberg's security guard the year before that. It was myself and a buddy of mine named Alex Paz, who also learned from Pops at the Wild Samoan Training Center. And then I also was one of I was part of Drew McIntyre's entrance last year in Philadelphia. I was one of the guys with like the Vikings with the sword. So that was really cool too. But yeah, I was definitely one of the buddies, and that was a lot of fun because, we're hopping out to the ring and there's, all these people, and it had been raining earlier in the night. So the ramp was a little slippery. But also it was kind of hard to see because we're hopping around and our vision's not super clear in that moment. So we're trying not to fall, but we're also trying to hop. We're also trying to have fun as well. So that was a really cool moment too.
And I imagine it being WrestleMania adds to it, right?
Oh, of course. It's the granddaddy of them all. It's the biggest night of the year. And so also it was special too because they were supposed to be in Tampa in 2020, but of course with the pandemic, plans changed. So 2020 they were at the PC, but 2021 they were in Tampa, and so it was cool to have that moment to to be out in front of a live crowd. I mean, to be part of WWE in any capacity is incredible, but the fans are a major part of it, as we know. They don't call them the WWE universe for nothing. So to be able to perform in any capacity in front of them is just, go back to that word, it's an honor.
No, out of everything that you've done for WWE or just extra work in general, what has been maybe the weirdest or oddest thing that they came to you with?
I wouldn't call it odd or weird. It was actually really cool. I got to be a referee for the 24/7 the wedding segment. So that was, I had done some reffing before, like in like private matches and things like that. But I remember, they mentioned that it was going to be a wedding segment and that there was going to be, multiple title changes taking place, and it was a lot of pressure because I had, like I said, I live for the pressure. I perform better that way. But I had a suit on, but I had the shirt on underneath it, so I had to time it just right to rip the jacket off and
right.
Get down for the pin. And it was really cool too because I have some close friends that referee for the major companies, including TNA, and so a couple of them wrote to me and they were like, hey, if you need any pointers, let me know, or hey, I can give you some advice. They kind of like joking around. So, but that was really cool because that was the first time I'd ever reffed in front of a live crowd before, and so it was really cool to have that moment and to know, like, the referee. I mean, the referee is the most powerful person in the match. So despite everything going on, if my timing wasn't right, I mean, I could have easily, ruined the segment. But thankfully, everything went really well, and it was really cool to have that experience. I can definitely add it to my resume. Another cool experience for me was being the stagehand who got to throw Kevin Owens the beer cans, because I'm a huge Stone Cold Steve Austin fan. He's the reason I fell in love with wrestling in the first place. And so I did the segment just a couple weeks before WrestleMania where I was throwing Kevin Owens the beer cans, and he wasn't catching them, and he brought me in the ring and gave me the stunner and he poured the beer on me. So that was really cool too, because like I mentioned, being a big fan of Stone Cold, I'm assuming he was at home watching it, just like I was, a 10-year-old kid watching him on TV. Not that he's watching it for me, but just, in general, to be a part of a segment hyping up his return to the ring that was nearly 20 years in the making, that was really cool for me. So I don't call any of the opportunities weird or odd. If anything, every opportunity is unique in its own way, but it's also just an experience that I'll always cherish for the rest of my life.
I ask because Because one of our guests, they had them pee on cue.
Oh, really?
Yes, that's Cody
Oh.
Hawk. Just for you to know who it was.
Oh, wow. I didn't know about that, but that's it. I haven't done that yet, but I mean.
And shout out to Jocelyn Navarro, who was also a part of that wedding segment as well.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow.
Alright. Another, incredible match more recently that you had was against one Bobby Fish. I feel like
Yes.
Bobby Fish and you would complement each other very well. Can you tell
Yes.
us about that match?
Yeah, so I don't want to say it's a funny story because it's definitely not a funny story. But we were supposed to wrestle for Riot Pro Wrestling, which was in Daytona Beach, Florida. We were supposed to be main event. I was the Riot Heavyweight Champion. I believe this was last March, I want to say. And my sister lives in Florida now, but she was in town visiting, so she was out in the crowd. What's really cool is Bobby's actually from Albany, New York, and I'm from Lee, Massachusetts. So they're about an hour away from each other. So we're both very familiar with each other's areas, and both of our real names is Robert, so we have that in common. But yeah, I'm a fan of his work. I would actually see him when I would do extra work for NXT. I would see him wrestle when he was, in the Undisputed Era. So I was very excited about the prospect of having that match. And I remember, like, literally the match right before ours, something happened where I guess the part of the ring broke, or the ring itself broke to the point where it wouldn't have been safe to have a match in it. And so, fortunately, the match didn't happen that night. We ended up doing a segment which was supposed to lead to, I believe, a big 6-man tag match, which unfortunately didn't happen. But what was really special was a few weeks later, we had the final WXW show in Mineola. Pops had announced in February of last year that unfortunately WXW would be having its final show in April, which was sad. But what was special was I got to defend the television championship in the final show against Bobby Fish. So we ended up having to do the match anyway, which was perfect. But what made it special was being the last WXW show, being that it was my final title defense. There was also a huge crowd there that night. I mean, it was to the point where they had to cap how many tickets were sold because the building can only hold so many people, including the talents. So we did end up having the match. It went very well. It was a great learning experience for me. I thought the match, we complemented each other very well, like you mentioned. And later on that night, I retired the TV championship. All the champions, we had to turn in our titles, our respective titles, and we would go down in history books as being the final champion, like the final TV champion, and one person would be the final WXW champion, etc. So it was a sad way to close that chapter, but I was very proud to have had that last match against Bobby Fish. And yeah, you know what? Who knows? We might end up doing it again sometime, which I would be grateful for.
Hell yeah. I think that's a great segue into Chico's Bizarre Adventure. You're a pro wrestler that goes up and down the roads, and weird, crazy, and bizarre things are bound to happen. Can you tell us a road story that fits that description?
Yeah, actually, literally like a week ago, I got booked for AEW in Clarksville, Tennessee, and it was about 10 hours away. So, ideally, I prefer to fly if given the option, but sometimes, the flights might not work out in terms of the times or in terms of the price. So in this case, it was $100 cheaper for me to drive. So I ended up driving the night before. I got a super cheap motel. I'm not big on quality. I mean, as long as I have a bed and a roof over my head, I'll stay anywhere if I can save a few bucks. So my room was like, $65, but it was nice. So my entire travel down and back was, I made enough money where even if I didn't get used, I would still make enough to at least profit something. So anyway, on the drive back, I'm crazy. Like I don't sleep. Like I'll just, I'll stay awake for a couple of days at a time and drive, straight through and then go straight to work and work my shoot job all day. So as soon as the show was over with, I started driving back, and it was actually very cold in Tennessee, and to the point where I got the indicators came on indicating that my tire pressure was low because of how cold it was, which I had never experienced that before because I bought a new car last year, and I'm so used to just, driving around in warm weather. That was the first time with this new car that I drove from, a warm environment to practically a freezing cold environment. So the tire pressure lights came on, and I was like kind of worried, like, well, should I stop somewhere? But I also didn't want to put too much air in my tires and have something happen. So I'm like, all right, I'll just take a chance. I'll just drive back. At this point, my phone is charging, but my battery is also starting to kind of get low for some reason, even though it was charging. But the worst part was I hit a detour sign where the road that I was supposed to get on was blocked off.
Oh no!
And I'm like, all right, no big deal, right? I'll just have to take a detour. So my GPS recalculated, and it said, it added 8 minutes. I'm like, all right, 8 minutes, no big deal. So I'm driving the 8 minutes. All of a sudden, little did I realize, it brought me in a circle. Now I'm back to the same detour sign. And I'm like, what's going on here? So basically, at this point, I would have had 8.5 hours left. But I looked on the GPS, and it provided an alternative where it would have added 2.5 hours back. And now I'm like, now it's going to be 11 hours. Now, it's not an issue because I can gladly stay awake. It's just, here's my tire pressure light that's low. My battery at this point is like 12%. It keeps draining. I have no idea where I'm at. I need my GPS. So now I'm like, okay, what do I do? Do I take the 2.5 hour longer detour, or so I'm like, you know what? I'm a risk taker. You kind of have to be. So I'll circle around one more time. There's got to be a different way to, get home. That's not going to take me that long. So did another loop, and this time, thankfully, I didn't notice it the previous time. There was a detour sign that brought me on a different road that the GPS didn't have listed for some reason. But thankfully, it brought me on a road that got me home roughly around, the same time. Of course, with all this going on, it did add a little bit to the trip. Not 2.5 hours worth, that's for sure. So at this point, though, as I was driving, of course, I was getting into warmer weather. So my tire pressure, eventually that went away. My battery started charging again, but it was a little bit of a scary experience because it's like, well, if my battery dies, I don't know where I'm at. I was worried that one of my tires might pop. I was worried about driving in circles, being home later than expected. So that kind of adds to the thrill of the travels, and travel is such a big part of what we do. But also you learn a lot from it. Like I've learned so much by flying a lot. I learned about talking to people and how to get from point A to point B and what to do. And, I've been in emergency situations where, you do blow a tire or you have a car issue and you have to figure out what to do and you have a place, somewhere to be. I mean, it's scary, but it's a big part of what we do. And, having these references, it makes it easier so that if it happens again, I know exactly what to do. Always be prepared. That's the key thing. Always have backup plans. Always, I always carry like portable chargers with me when I'm traveling. Of course, I have a spare tire in my trunk. I have backup plans in mind in case these things do happen. But when I was new at traveling, I didn't have that. And so, when these things happen, it's like, what do I do? But now I know how to defend it.
Oh yeah, definitely. As you said, you're prepared. Always be prepared.
Always.
Now, maybe you were prepared for something like this. Maybe you wasn't. You were actively a part of the Make-A-Wish Foundation, a volunteer. I did notice that somebody did actually, one of these Make-A-Wish kids actually told you that you inspired them to actually get into pro wrestling. What does something like that mean to you?
Honestly, that means more to me than what people might realize. Like, I'm the kind of person that, and I'll be the first to admit, I get so wrapped up in wrestling. I'm always going a million miles an hour. I'm always thinking about the next opportunity, the next town, the next moment that sometimes we lose sight on what really matters the most, and that's the power and the ability to inspire other people. Like, I don't consider myself to be a celebrity. I don't consider myself to be famous, but moments like that made me realize that we have a bigger impact on other people than we may realize. And so, I've been very blessed, very honored to have been a volunteer for the Make-A-Wish Foundation for coming up on 8 years. And, I've met a lot of kids and I've met a lot of people, and I had no idea that that I had met him and that he was pursuing this. And then for him to tell me that I inspired him to do this, it made it all worth it for me. Like, I've had so many moments that we've mentioned already, and so many moments left to come. But to know, even if I can inspire just one person to follow their dreams, especially being in the wrestling business, like, that to me makes it all worth it. If nothing else, like, you always hear that phrase of, like, you want to leave the wrestling business better than when you found it. And, I still have a lot left to give, but the fact that I was able to, touch one person's life, much less Make-A-Wish kid, to, again, inspire him to follow his dreams, like, and who knows, he may inspire Make-A-Wish kid or even, anybody to follow their dreams as well, and keep that cycle going. And that's what life's all about, is just motivating each other and being positive, being uplifting, and pushing one another to be the absolute best versions of ourselves that we can be. So to answer your question, it was a very touching moment for me, and it made me put things into perspective and made me realize just how powerful we are, and to be able to use, that for the greater good, to be able to do Make-A-Wish and to do anti-bullying presentations and to, be the difference in the world. I mean, that's what it's all about, in my opinion.
All right. Now, can you tell us about Tank and Tina?
Took me a second. I was like, wait, what? Being ever since I was a kid, even before I got into wrestling, I always loved movies and TV shows and video games, and so I always saw myself doing something in the form of entertainment. And so whether that be acting or, of course, eventually wrestling. So, of course, a big part of wrestling is acting. And so in 2018, I started taking acting classes with this acting coach by the name of Swan Christopher. And, whatever we would do, like different monologues or like stuff on the fly, I always touched upon my real self, which I can be very goofy. I can be very, silly and flip that switch, so just like a touch of the Chico Adams persona.
Right.
And he was telling me, he was like, I did this short film. I wrote this screenplay for the short film called Tank and Tina. And he's like, you'd actually be perfect for the role of Tank. He's like, it almost seems like it's tailor-made for you, even though I wrote it before I even met you. And he was like, would you, if I were to film it, would you be interested in being the lead role along with Tina? I mean, there's only two of us in his short film, but I was like, yeah, absolutely. So he's like, don't worry, I'll get you IMDb credits. But I was like, no, that's just for the experience of it. So yeah, we shot it, we rehearsed it, a couple days, and then we filmed it in one day. And it's a lot of fun because there's a lot of elements to that character that is like my real self, where it's almost like I'm watching a real life, just a day in the office of Chico Adams. So, but no, it was a good experience. It was a lot of fun. I love being in front of the camera, and I just had fun with it. And that's what these moments are about, is just having fun. Because if you're not having fun, then why are you even doing it? But also, right. If I'm a fan watching wrestling or watching a movie, I want to see someone that's enjoying doing what they're doing. I don't want to watch someone who's there to, collect a check or there to just fill in a role. I want to see someone who's living in the moment and doing what they love and being able to live vicariously. So, yeah, it was definitely a lot of fun, a very unique experience, and I'd love to do it again. I've actually done quite a few acting roles since then as well, and there'll be plenty more too.
I believe the most recent one was you were an extra in a Brad Pitt movie, no?
Yes, actually it hasn't come out yet. As far as I know, it's coming out in June of this year, 2025. It's called F1. So we filmed it obviously it's been filmed all over the place, but my roles were filmed in Daytona Beach at the Daytona 500. I was, a background extra, which I'm grateful for. But yeah, I live in Orlando, which was about an hour and a half from Daytona. But yeah, when I was, offered the opportunity, I jumped at it in a heartbeat, and I'm looking forward to seeing the final product. I don't know how much, airtime I'll get. Maybe you'll see me in the background. Maybe you'll see me more prominently. I don't know. It's not going to be a big role, definitely not a speaking role, but to be part of any movie, especially a movie that stars Brad Pitt, to me is an incredible experience. So I can't wait to see the final product.
I was just going to say, I mean, it's something you put on your resume. I was in the movie with Brad Pitt.
Exactly. You don't have to give specifics or anything. I mean, no, who's to say I wasn't his co-star? But no, I'm an extra.
Right, you beat Jacob Fatu clean.
I did. Yeah, I'm not gonna say that out loud because I don't want to get through a stretcher again.
Right, but when Jacob's not listening. And I'm imagining, you put on your resume, I was a doctor as well. You've done that as well.
Oh yeah, I've done everything. Doctor, underground fighter, paramedic, EMT, security guard, Bad Bunny, 24/7 referee, of course, professional wrestler. I've been a ring announcer. I've been a producer. I mean, I don't think there's any role I haven't done in WWE.
Filling up that acting resume.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think that's a great segue into the colossal question. Let's say they're making a movie about you. Every movie has a soundtrack. What would be the first 3 songs on your movie soundtrack?
Wow. Honestly, I like Eminem a lot. I mean, I like all kinds of music. I'm not a huge fan of country, but I like, rock and roll. I like, alternative. I grew up, liking Nirvana, Alice in Chains, STP. But one of my favorite songs is the song Till I Collapse. Of course, by Eminem. And of course, there's different versions of that as well. Like there's one with Tupac and of course, Nate Dogg. But I just love the lyrics of it because, it's literally saying like, I'm not going to quit or give up and I'm going to do this literally till I collapse. And that's a big mantra for how I live my life. When I was 10 years old and I decided I wanted to be a wrestler and I would tell everybody, not everyone believed me and some people laughed and some people still laugh to this day. But the point is that I knew in my heart and soul that I'm going to pursue this full on. I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to give up. And I'm going to do everything in my power to make it happen till I collapse.
2 more?
2 more?
Yes, 3 songs. You got more.
Oh, okay. Let's see. You have to bear with me here for a second because
pull up that good Spotify.
Yeah, it's funny. I actually have one of those old school iPods that I still bring to the gym with me.
Oh wow!
So, like living in 2007 all over again. Sorry, I'm just trying to think of a good one. Probably Welcome to the Jungle by Guns N' Roses, just because the wrestling business itself, in many ways, is like a jungle where there's, you have to kind of fend for yourself, and it's every man for themselves, and you have to have that almost an animal-like instinct because it's very competitive. But you can also help each other out in the process. But yeah, it's definitely there's definitely nothing like being in the wrestling business, and so I often look at it too, like, I use this analogy in training the other night where I always say, like, you have to be like a shark that smells blood, the blood being opportunities. When these opportunities come along, you got to just jump at it. And so, wrestling can easily be looked upon as a shark tank, but yeah, also a jungle. So yeah, I would say Welcome to the Jungle, Till I Collapse by Eminem. And if I had to come up with one more, gotta choose wisely. I know as soon as this is over with, I'm gonna be like, man, I should have used this one. I should have said that one. I gotta pull up my iPod for this one. Let's see. So I'm a huge, like I said, I mentioned before, I'm a big fan of Nirvana. So one of my other favorite songs is Smells Like Teen Spirit. But you know what? As a teenager, I got into weightlifting when I was 15. I started working full-time hours when I was 14. And so My teenage years, a lot of people, think about their teenage years as being times where they might have drank or smoked or partied or, nothing wrong with that. But for me, I spent my teenage years, working and going to the gym and, played football in high school and, relentlessly practiced my promos and things like that. So it might not seem like it has a lot of meaning to it, but I would have to say, yeah, it smells like Teen Spirit.
All right. Now that we have the soundtrack down, everybody knows you get the soundtrack first, then you write the script, and then you go to casting. Who plays you? And you can't say yourself because you are obligated to make a Stan Lee-esque cameo.
That's a good one. I never really gave thought to that, but it would be kind of a cool little full circle moment is if Brad Pitt played me. I mean, I know he's a lot older than I, but that'd be kind of cool to be like, hey, we can kind of flip roles here. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's a good question. Honestly, to answer that question truthfully, I would have to say Tom Hardy. Yeah, I'm a big fan of his work. I watched Bronson for the first time last year. I'm a huge Batman fan, and so I thought he did an incredible job with Bane. But he has experience playing fighting roles. As we all know, between the Bronson and the other movie he did. I'm drawing a blank right now. Give me 1 second. I can.
The boxing one, right?
Yeah, I'm seeing it in my head. I'm like, okay, give me a second. I can pull it up. What is that?
Southpaw?
Let me see.
Maybe that was Jake Gyllenhaal?
Yeah. I know this. I feel like an idiot right now because I'm trying to find. I can picture it in my head of what it is too.
I know which one you're talking about, but yes, he definitely did a boxing movie.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, Warrior. That's what it was.
Warrior.
Yeah, so he did Warrior. He did Bronson. Of course, he killed it as Bane, but he's done very physical roles before. But also we kind of have I know he has different hairstyles, but he's had the shaved head look. He's had the bearded look before. So even though he's a little bit older than me, we're similar in height. He's probably maybe we're both around the 5'10" mark, I believe. Of course, I'm a little taller with my boots on. But yeah, I think Tom Hardy would be a perfect choice. I don't think I'm on his radar or anything. Definitely not. Definitely can't afford a Tom Hardy. But if money wasn't an issue,
we have unlimited budget. This is a big time production.
Yeah, I would definitely say Tom Hardy then.
Now that we have you casted, every movie has a supporting cast. Who would be 3 people significant to you in your story that would be in your movie, and who would play them?
I definitely have to mention my wife, but in terms of who would play her, I don't know. I don't want to.
Yeah.
I would let her be the one to have a big say in that because I don't want to, pick the wrong person. I want to have her be the one to, but she's not here at the moment. But my wife would be a huge part of that.
We're here to have a good time. We don't want to get you in trouble with your wife.
Yeah. I can't even think of someone because I'm just trying to be romantic here, but there's no one that could play her perfectly. So
right.
Somebody else I'd have to mention Pops. Pop for the Wild Samoan. In terms of who would play him, I mean, same thing. Pops was so unique that there's no one that could even come close to filling those shoes. But if I would have to have somebody in my story, it would definitely have to be Pops. And I think one more. So one person that's managed me quite a bit is Dr. Eric Christopher. He's managed me for a good chunk of my matches, not all of them. Probably, if I had to say, probably between 15 to 20% of the matches that I've had, he's managed me. So yeah, Dr. Eric Christopher. I'll probably have to say Chris Pratt for him because he kind of looks like them a little bit. I think Chris Pratt and a Tom Hardy in the same movie would be interesting.
Oh yeah. All right, this is sounding like a great movie. A blockbuster to stay at the least. And you could pre-order the tickets now.
Right. For sure.
On to a controversial subject. Pineapple on pizza. What's your stance?
I love pizza to death. I really do, and I like pineapple here and there. I don't know if I've ever actually had it before, pineapple on pizza. I think I have had it before. I've been to CC's a couple of times, like the pizza buffet. I don't really have a stance on it either way. I don't think it's like, I've heard people talk down about it and think it's the worst thing ever. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I don't dislike it. I don't personally. It's not my favorite. It's not my forte. I'm a huge buffalo chicken fan, so I love buffalo chicken pizza. I like barbecue pizza sometimes too, but buffalo chicken's my favorite. But yeah, it's not something that I would personally order. But if it was readily available, I wouldn't be opposed to it.
Okay, so you're kind of neutral, more leaning towards anti.
Exactly.
There you go. What's your spirit Pokemon?
That's the thing. Like when I was in fourth grade, I hate to say this, I wasn't really a big Pokemon fan. It was just something I never really got into. I did collect a couple of the cards here and there, but it wasn't really my thing. I just kind of tried it to see if I liked it. I'll probably have to say Pikachu, honestly, because he was the one. I remember having one of his cards in particular, and so I thought that was really cool. That's probably the cliche answer, but that's my go-to answer. I hate to say, but no, I'm not. I don't dislike it. It's just something that I never really got into. But it was around during my time, when I was in fourth grade, like I said, and it was popular amongst my friends. But I think I was so wrapped up into wrestling that I didn't even entertain other avenues in that regard. But
right.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I wish I can say, but I would have to go with Pikachu.
No worries. We love the OGs.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we love the late great Tracy Smothers on the show. Do you know the acronym for Doug? THUG.
I don't, unfortunately, but they say you learn something new every day, and we still have less than an hour left of this day, so let's lay it on me. What is it? What does it stand for?
Is for terrible, H is for hell, U is for ugly, and G is for jail, 'cause a Doug can't spell.
It's a good one. I gotta
Yes.
I gotta remember that.
We love the late great Tracy Smothers, trying to keep the memory alive on the show.
Of course.
Weirdest question will be asked on a wrestling interview. Would you ever consider wrestling a Rock? Not Dwayne Johnson, not the country, an actual physical Rock.
Would I ever wrestle an actual Rock?
Yes.
I've never thought about it, but hey, if someone would like to pay my booking fee, I would definitely not be opposed to it. I mean, I think, to be honest with you, I think I would have to change my wrestling name from Chico Adams to Paper. Because let's be honest, Paper always beats Rock. But definitely not Scissors, though. We could have a triple threat match, though. Rock versus Paper versus Scissors. That'd be very interesting. You could put that on the marquee. I mean, there's plenty of people that would pay money and buy a ticket to see that. But yeah, no, like I said, if someone's willing to pay my booking fee, let's do it. Paper versus Rock. Let's go.
Well, just for context, there is a wrestler named Psycho Mike that indeed wrestled a Rock for over 15 minutes in a Tungsten Man match. That's an Iron Man match that lasts for 2 weeks.
Really?
Yes.
Wow, I definitely did not know that. But that's interesting.
Yes, unfortunately, Mike did not win that match either.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's too bad.
On a more serious note, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
I see myself as the ultimate dream and goal has always been WWE. And I look at, where I was 5 years ago to now, and I've done a lot of incredible things. I've been very fortunate to have had matches in the last 5 years with, NWA, with Ring of Honor, with, of course, AEW, WWE, Raw, NXT, you name it, MLW. So I see myself either in WWE or I see myself working for one of the major companies under contract. But at the end of the day, as long as I'm healthy and I'm happy and I'm doing what I love and I'm continuing to inspire others, that to me is what matters the most. Even if I'm not signed, as long as I can check those boxes and be able to, uplift other people and be positive. And like I said, still be healthy and happy. That to me is the name of the game. I used to be that person that would sometimes put too much emphasis on having to sign that piece of paper that's almost like it gives you some kind of validation that you've, quote, made it. But to me, having made it is very subjective, and it's different for each person. So, there's people out there that might be signed that might not be happy in life. There's people that are independent contractors that might be living their best life and being able to, be healthy and inspire other people to do the same. So to me, at the end of the day, it's all about being happy and doing what you love. And I always say, if you have your health, you have everything. So in a perfect world, as long as I'm healthy and happy, and WWE, of course, is and always will be my ultimate dream in terms of, where I'd like to wrestle and be signed to. But again, gotta look at the big picture, and as long as I don't know, I'm talking in circles here, but the main thing is being healthy and happy and doing what I love. And if that's WWE, then great. If it's not, hey, there's so many opportunities out there as well, all over the world, especially now. I mean, wrestling's growing so much.
Oh, yeah.
To me, there's so many doors, and look at like the partnership with WWE and TNA, and that could lead to so many more opportunities. And it's just, there's so much going on, and I'm just blessed to be a part of it. And I want to ride this wave, realistically for as long as I can until I can no longer do it.
And what is a match people should go out of their way to see that best shows off what you are as a pro wrestler?
The first match I ever did with WWE was against Leo Rush. It was a dark match at NXT. Unfortunately, it was recorded, definitely, but being a dark match, it wasn't ever shown.
Right.
There are some clips here and there. But for me, I would say the match with Omos was awesome in terms of like the experience and in terms of, working with someone of that size. I mean, it's not every day you get to wrestle someone that's over 7 feet tall. And of course, to be at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York, to be having a live match that's being seen around the world. For me, a match that I haven't mentioned yet that I am very proud of is the debut match of the Creed brothers. It was myself and Jason Cade versus the Creeds. And so that was really special for me because they needed two people to work with them. It was their debut match. They were, relatively new to the pro wrestling business, but they were both very accomplished collegiate athletes, collegiate wrestlers. And so I won't mention specifics, but someone that worked for WWE reached out to myself and Jason Cade, and they mentioned they needed two experienced indie wrestlers to come in and work with them. And Jason Cade is someone that I kind of broke into business with, and same thing, we trained together, we wrestled each other a bunch of times. We both had about 10 years of experience at this point. So it was really special that WWE thought that highly of us to bring us in to help them, because I remember being in that position where I'm in the ring, or I'm the green guy wrestler, and not saying that they're green, because they're incredible even being that new, but I meant when I first got into business, I'm in the ring with people that are 10 years in or 15 years in, and I'm the one who is following their lead, learning from them. So to almost have the roles flipped, but also to be on this grand stage was a big, opportunity for me. And so, yeah, I brought them in, and they were both incredible to work with, both great guys, hard workers. They picked up the business like sponges, And so we did the match, and as soon as it was done, I came through the curtain, and one of the first people that was there was Triple H, and he came up and he shook my hand and he said, you should be very proud of yourself for that. And I received high praise from a lot of the producers and the agents and the coaches, and so and of course this was in Orlando at the Performance Center, so it was just really cool to have that match. My wife was in the crowd, my closest friends were in the crowd, but to be able
all the interference caused her to lose the match rather than, Liv being, a formidable opponent.
The clusterfuck of what the fuck?
Correct.
I call bullshit. But
Well, what do you call this match, star-wise?
It wasn't a good one. I'll give it 2 stars.
Give it 2.5. I don't think it was as bad as you may have said it is.
Tube somewhere.
And I will put a link to it in the description in the video below for anybody that hasn't seen it, wants to see it, wants to re-see it after this interview. And since we are nearing the conclusion of this interview, we are wrestling with the 8 questions of doom. This is our speed round, our bonus round, the round where we see who you really are. Are you ready?
Always ready. Let's go.
Excluding yourself, greatest wrestler of all time.
I definitely wouldn't say myself, but thank you for that. My favorite, the greatest in-ring performer of all time, I would have to say would be a toss-up between Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels.
Worst wrestler.
I can't say myself.
I would not accept that answer if you said yourself.
Man. Wow, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus here or anything, but if we're keeping score, I would have to say Drew Carey. I don't know if you remember that. He was in the Royal Rumble back in, I think it was like, 2000, 2001?
Yes.
Yeah, he eliminated himself. I mean, come on. He never returned to the ring since then, I don't think. Not in a wrestling role anyway. So, yeah, I would say Drew Carey.
Okay, playing
Sorry,
it
Drew.
safe.
Sorry, Drew. Whose line is it anyway? Definitely not mine.
Your main eventing WrestleMania for the World Championship. Who is your opponent?
My opponent would be Cody Rhodes.
If you could come out to anyone's entrance music, past or present, who would it be?
Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Which one?
Which theme song?
Yes.
It's called "I Won't Do What You Tell Me." His classic theme song.
Oh, the original. Okay, because some people like the disturbed version.
Actually, you know what? That's a good version too. I have it on my iPod. That's a good one, but no, I gotta go with the classic one.
I gotcha. Finish the sentence. Kayfabe is
What you make of it?
we would have also accepted taste great on toast. Squash, vegetable or fruit?
Vegetable.
It is indeed a fruit.
I'm not surprised. Apparently, a tomato is a fruit as well, but it's one of those things like,
Yes, it has seeds.
Yeah.
Same logic.
I don't think I've ever even eaten a squash before, so that's I gotta keep that in mind though if it ever comes up.
Yes. New Japan wrestler Tai Chi, his ring gear gets smaller every year, revealing more of himself to the world. My question, what is the appropriate trunks to butt cheek ratio for ring gear?
Honestly, I don't even know how to answer that, to be honest with you. I think, you know what, also, when it comes to ring gear, like, as long as you're comfortable, but as long as it's, age appropriate, you have to figure there's a big part of the fan base are children. So as long as it's PG and it's appropriate for, all ages to watch, that's what matters the most. As long as it's, being that the time period we're in, this is no longer the Attitude Era, and what might have been acceptable years ago may not be acceptable now. So as long as it's family friendly and it's PG, I think that's what matters the most. And if you're comfortable, that's even better.
So to each their own, but definitely not Sexy Eddie. And the last question, the main event, the thing everybody wants to know. Have you ever had a conversation with a stranger in a supermarket about Darby Allin?
No. But there are people that are not in the wrestling business that are fans that have mentioned, brought him up before in conversation. So I have had conversations where I would talk about, his style and the fact that he's, going to be climbing Mount Everest, which is, hey, I wish him all the best of luck to that. And so definitely not in a supermarket, but I have had conversations about his style and his work. And you got to give him credit for putting his body on the line like that to entertain fans around the world.
And that is the correct answer. And that will conclude this interview. Thank you so much for coming on and doing this with me.
Yeah, thank you. It was a lot of fun. Went by fast. And hey, who knows? Never say never, as the old saying goes in wrestling.
Absolutely. And once again, where can we find you on social media and your merchandise?
Yeah, so on Pro Wrestling Tees, that is the only website that is selling official Chico Adams merch. The rest are not authentic, and they are not endorsed by yours truly. So Pro Wrestling Tees, like I said, I have 4 t-shirts for sale. If you see me at a show, I have 8x10s. I have sunglasses that I call hater blockers. I have trading cards for sale. As for my social media, I'm on Twitter and Instagram. My handle is at the Chico Adams. I'm also on Facebook. Again, I'm pretty close to the 5,000 friend mark, so I can't add everybody, but you can always follow me on there. And I have a YouTube channel. You're welcome to search for it as well for booking inquiries. My email is bookchicoadams@gmail.com.
And you don't have to type it into your Google machines. All of the links to all his social media will be in the description of the video below, but on YouTube and Castbox. Simply click the link. A new tab will appear on whatever device you are on. You have no excuse. Buy a damn shirt.
Exactly.
Of course, thank you for listening. If you like what we're doing, please like, subscribe, comment, but on YouTube and Castbox. Join us tomorrow as we interview Jack Veneno Jr. and join us every Tuesday and Wednesday for new incredible interviews. Follow the show at Wrestling with E, both on X, Thread, and Instagram. And follow me for information on who we're interviewing, when we're interviewing them, links to those interviews, and so much more. Follow me personally at JamesJ993. Alright, when I say Wrestling Wit, you say entertainment, okay?
Sure.
For our special guest Chico Adams, Calico Yacht, Scooter Dust, I am James J, and this has been Wrestling with
Entertainment.
Hey folks, this is the Colossal Mike Law, and you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment. Enjoy the show, support these guys. We appreciate it very much. We'll see you at ringside.